Hi, Jason Vaughan, portrait photographer, back again at the fantastic Aura studio near Northampton, and again with the fabulous Kelly Hathaway. Yeah, basically we keep her locked up in a corner and we bring her out now when we need her. A little video now because what I get a lot is people will ask me when they start using the PiXAPRO or the Godox lights and they start going into the realms of high-speed sync is, why don't I can't get enough power? Why do my pictures look so dark? You know, this high-speed sync is supposed to overpower the sun, and I'm not getting it. One, you're not going to overpower the sun. You can get the effect where you can turn the ambient light darker through using the high-speed sync, but what it really enables you to do is use your fast glass like your f2.8s, your f1.4s outside with a fill light, with the flash at shutter speeds that normally would mean that you'd have to work at f16 on a sunny day, so that you can get that narrow depth of field and that creative balance in the pictures that you're trying to achieve. Now, there's reasons why when you switch over to high-speed sync that you lose a lot of power, and the easiest way for me to actually explain that is in a minute I'm going to just do some images to show you how much power you lose so you can see the difference the minute you switch into high-speed sync. But also I've got a little animation made by a friend of mine with my horrible voice over the top of it to explain to you what's going on within your camera and within the flash so that you understand why you get such a power loss the minute you kick your camera into high-speed sync. You can still use it outside, but you just got to be careful about distances. So like here I've got the modifier very close, and what modifier you're using. It's best to use really efficient modifiers that will focus the light into the area that you want it and get the maximum power out of the light that you can. So, gonna put on the little animation for you, and then we're just gonna do some shots to show you some examples.
Understand how high-speed sync works, we are going to look at what happens with a mechanical shutter inside the camera. Every camera has a sync speed when working with flash. When we work within the sync speed, this is what happens. We press the shutter, the first curtain will move across, exposing the sensor, allowing the light to give us our exposure in the camera. Then the second curtain will move across the sensor to stop the light reaching the sensor. Then they reset. So when we use flash within sync speed of the camera, the first curtain will move across the sensor, exposing the whole sensor. Then, before the second curtain moves, there will be the single pop of flash, giving us the exposure over the whole of the sensor, before the second curtain then moves across, covering the sensor and blocking the light from reaching it. Now when we exceed the sync speed, what happens is the first curtain moves across to expose the sensor, but before it has fully exposed it, the second curtain starts its journey. So instead of fully exposing the sensor, we now have a slit of light that travels across the sensor. The faster that shutter speed, the smaller that slit of light. What high-speed sync flash does is, instead of one single pulse of light from the flash, it will give off a rapid burst from the flash, giving us an even exposure across the sensor as the opening moves over it. This allows us to shoot at much higher shutter speeds than the standard sync speed.
Okay, so what we've got here, we've got a very simple portrait setup. So we've got the key light with a 65cm rice bowl. We're using the Storm 2 1200 watt light, and I've got the power setting on that at 1/16. Okay, we've got the Storm 2 600 at the back there. And again, we've got that set at 1/16. This is about 3 foot away from the model. This here is probably about 4, maybe 5 foot from the model. Okay, not really important. What we're going to show you here is how you can shoot within the sync speed of the camera, and we've got it metered at 5.6, and you get a nice exposed image. The minute you push your shutter speed above the high-speed sync, I'm going to take a few shots at a few different shutter speeds, just moving up a third of a stop with each shot, and you'll see how quickly we lose the power from these lights because of what I explained in the animation. That strobing effect that's going on with the light really uses up the power that you would normally get from it from one just single flash, those really fast pulses to keep up with those curtains moving across the sensor, it eats the power, okay? So, like I said earlier, you need to think about the modifier that you're going to use if you're going to use high-speed sync, and get your lights in as close to the subject as you can. So we'll do a few shots and then I can show them and I'll put them up as we go along. So we're starting off on f5.6, as I've said. I'm 1/200th of a second, and we're just going to take a nice shot there. I'm going to review it in the camera, and that's nicely exposed. We've got a nice little bit of loop lighting going on there, a little bit of rim lighting. And we've now kicked in just 1/250th of a second, so that's kicked it into the first stage of the high-speed sync. And we can see there already we've got a little bit of a difference between the two, so it's dropped down. And we're going to boost that now. So we're going 1/320. Lost a little bit more power, so we're going to bump it up 1/400. And I'm just going to keep doing this through the shutter speed so you can see how you're losing the power. And I will pop the shutter speeds up on each one. And we're up to 1/1000th. So we're getting into those really nice fast shutter speeds. I think I got you with your eyes closed then as well. And we see there, I'm going to stop there, but we got up to 1/2000th of a second, and you can see how you're losing that power. So we didn't change anything in here. The ambient light stayed the same. The power setting on the lights is still 1/16th on each of the lights, and you can just see as we're going up and we're getting the faster shutter speed, how you're losing that power out of that light. So you would have to compensate by either bumping the power up on the light, moving the light closer to the subject, or sacrifice a little bit of your shutter speed so that you can still keep it with the high-speed sync and get the aperture that you want to get. Or you could always go back to the old days and move into the shade or use an ND filter. It's entirely up to you. But high-speed sync, still a great tool, but you just need to be aware of what's going on with the camera, with the flash, to understand why you lose the power.